Hey guys, my name is Grant. I'm the owner of Goodwood Audio. We do a whole line of cables and junction boxes and all that, but today's video is not about that. Today's video is how you can take a complex rig like Wet Dry Wet and run it into one amplifier. How to simplify the concept but keep some of the key principles. Wet Dry Wet rigs are quite popular among guitarists, to say the least, because of how they sound in the room. You have one dry amp, and this amp basically takes your overdrives, maybe some wah, fuzz, compressor, and it runs it to one dedicated dry amp. Then you take that same overdriven, dry affected signal and also send it, in addition to the dry amp, to your wet effects. And these wet effects are run in parallel and set to kill dry, which we're going to get to in a second here. But the main idea here is that you have two wet amps that get wet effects only, no dry signal, and you have one dry amp that gets dry signal only. Between the two wet amps and the dry amp, you get a huge sound with dry and wet fully separated between different amplifiers. This gives you additional clarity and also extra width in a stereo signal between those wet amps, getting your stereo wet effects. The downside here though is you need to bring 3 amplifiers to a gig. This is not something that most people can do, and practically speaking, you don't want to be that musician that shows up wanting to have 3 amps at a small pub gig. It's just not practical. So the question today is, can we take a Wet Dry Wet rig and run it all to one amp? How do we get the best out of complexity, simplify it down, and keep it into a rig that most of us could still practically bring to a gig, a session, whatever it may be, while getting the clarity and the benefits of a Wet Dry Wet rig? So today we are trying to run parallel wet effects in mono with a parallel dry line, all mixed down to one amplifier. One term I really want to clarify today is kill dry. You're probably going to hear me say that quite a bit throughout the video. All I mean by this is if you were to run a delay pedal in kill dry, all you're going to get on the delay pedal's outputs are the repeats of the delay. You will not get the initial attack of the guitar. If you were to run this delay in a typical or normal fashion, you would get the attack of the guitar going straight through the delay. This is our dry signal. And then after that, you would get the repeats of that delay. This is our wet signal. With kill dry, we are basically getting rid of that dry signal. So now you only get the repeats of the delay. With reverb, you would only get the decay of the reverb, not the initial dry signal. By doing this, we allow that parallel dry line that we're going to see in these diagrams to be our initial attack, while not doubling up that dry, going through the delay and going through the reverb in parallel, as you can see on screen. Why is doubling up dry such a big issue? Well, I'm going to show you an audio example really quickly here, but basically if you have dry going through your delay, or maybe through a chorus or through a reverb, and it's being run in parallel with another dry line, that dry in the delay and the dry going through to the mixer out to the amp is going to double up. It's going to get louder. And we want to make sure that that dry signal doesn't overtake our delay repeats and our reverb decay, whatever it is that we're running in parallel. This is what it sounds like if you run 2 dry lines in parallel. I'll turn the second dry line on and then I'll turn it off so you can hear the difference. So as you can hear, that dry doubles up. Not good. So we want to make sure we're only ever running one dry line through to the amp. If you're ever in a pinch, you can do this through one of your wet effects, but just don't do it through multiples. I do, however, always recommend running a dedicated dry line so that you have full control over your signal. One last note on kill dry: if you were to turn off a delay or a reverb that has been set to kill dry, it should mute that line. So now you should not get any signal at all passing through that delay pedal if it's been bypassed. The reason for this is it will double up the dry if it were. So if you were to turn off that delay pedal and then dry were to pass through as normal, that is now a dry line doubling up with your parallel dry line you already have running. So we want these pedals to mute themselves when they're bypassed. Then you turn that pedal back on, and now you're getting only the delay repeats or the reverb decay. The mix knob in a kill dry pedal is going to just affect the level of the delay repeats or reverb decay when fully counterclockwise or off on that mix knob. Again, you should hear no signal passing through that pedal. Now onto the audio examples where you get to hear the differences between a series and parallel mono pedal board. Both of these are mono pedal boards, just routed in different ways. None of the settings have been changed on the pedals. The only thing we're changing is setting the wet effects to kill dry for the parallel rig and normal mode, passing dry signal, for the series rig. The PBC 10 by RJM Music makes these changes very easy, going from series to parallel, and takes care of all the routing, so we can do this really quick. What we're gonna do is take one chord progression played through the series rig and then through the parallel rig, and I've chopped these up after the fact so that you can listen to both chords as we go through the rig. It's going to show you the differences more clearly between the two rig types, normal mode and parallel to a single amp. Here we go. There you have it. So we had the guitar going into a Bondi Effects Del Mar, into a Boss CE2W chorus, into a Meris LVX delay, into a Meris Mercury X reverb, out to the amp. One option was routed in series, one in parallel. I'm curious what you heard. The main difference is here, when you run in series, one pedal into the next, cascading effects, you will get things like the delay running into a reverb, which means that the delay repeats are also going to have reverb added to them. So every delay repeat feeds to the input of the reverb, and the reverb is added on to both the dry signal and the delay repeats that feed into it. Whereas in parallel, you are now running chorus, then we send a dry line to the amp, and then we send a dry signal to the delay input, then we send a dry signal into the reverb input. Now the delay and reverb are not interacting with each other. The delay is sending straight to the amp. No reverb is added to its repeats. The reverb is sending straight to the amp, so now its decay is not getting delay repeats added to it as it's decaying. So it's a different sound. No sound here is better or worse than the other. This is preference. Typically, a parallel rig will add more clarity and less muddiness because you are getting less reverb added onto your signal, so it's easier to transition to chords and lines. However, us as guitar players are used to hearing a series rig. We are used to hearing delay cascading into reverb, and so even if we aren't aware of it, this is a sound that we have come to know and be familiar with. I've had many people try out parallel rigs in their setups and not like it because they're used to a series rig. Conversely, I've had tons of people try out parallel rigs and really enjoy the clarity that it brings, especially when there's a dedicated dry amp that is not muddied up by delay, reverb, or modulation. This is completely up to you and your preferences as a guitar player. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below and to see if a mono parallel rig is something you would ever consider for your pedal board. Hope this has been helpful. I hope this has given you new light and insight into how you can run your pedals and try out new things. If you guys need any materials, dual lock, anchors, zip ties, custom soldered patch cables of all types for your pedal board, and of course junction boxes that allow you to do series and parallel, please check out our website and the links below in the description. I'll see you guys down in the comments of this video. Really looking forward to hearing what you guys think.